Hi you guys, welcome back to the desk corner. Wow, it has been almost 2 months, and it could very well be 2 months by the time this one gets edited and posted out, since my last video that I posted, and I have really missed talking to you guys, I will tell you that. I have a video today for you that I've been working on slowly over the past couple of weeks, and I'm very excited to share it with you because we are obviously, by the title and by what you see on my desk here, we are obviously going back and taking a look at the Sennelier 48 watercolor pan set. Now, for those of you that have been around on this channel, you might remember when I first bought and unboxed these back about 2 years and 4 months ago in January of 2021. And back then I created this swatch chart that obviously does not fit in the tin. Okay, so I'm going to keep this swatch chart, but I think it's about time we do a re-swatching of these colors. This is a beautiful set. I absolutely love these paints, and I've used them a lot over the past 2 years, and I'm excited to come back and make a swatch chart for these again. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I keep putting it off for some reason. So I'm very excited to do that with you guys today, but I have already made a swatch chart. This takes me absolutely forever, and yes, it's hopeless trying to read the names. It's actually such a small chart. It just barely fits inside of the tin, as you can see, and I wasn't sure how to do this. I mean, it's 48 colors. I wanted to label them regardless. I know I wrote so small, but I will talk through this swatch chart because obviously it's hard to see, and you guys can see I already made a mistake, and this always happens. I'm so bad at making swatch charts. Maybe this is why I always put off remaking them. And if you guys are wondering what paper this is, it's actually this Etcher Lab watercolor block, which happened to be the perfect size for this. At least the height is, and I just trimmed it down so it would fit in here. Alright you guys, let's go ahead and just get started with the swatching. I really hope I don't make any mistake and put any colors in the wrong spot because I already made one mistake there that's very much bugging me. Starting with our first column here, we have neutrals, and I absolutely love this column, and we're starting out with yellow ochre. You guys probably can see that since I zoomed in, it's a bit easier to see all the color labels, but also I don't have anything written about pigments or pigment numbers or anything like that because I don't know anything about that. I don't even consider myself very much of a painter. I do like watercolor, and I've gotten more into it the past 2-ish years, but I didn't start out that way, and I was more of a pencil artist to begin with and never really paid too much attention to pigments and all of that jazz, so I won't have anything substantial to contribute to that today as we're going through this. I also am not really going to discuss light fastness, although I do remember when I bought the set that it came with a chart of light fastness, and so I can always refer back to that if need be. Now the first column here has a lot of Alexis's favorite colors, including that Payne's gray, which you just have to have, or at least I have to have in a watercolor set and absolutely cannot do without, just no good. I also have neutral tint under there, which actually comes in handy more often than I would think. And so I managed to mess up a couple of the swatches here, but nothing too terrible, surprisingly, given my track record. And so hopefully you guys can still enjoy this, even though a few of them are just a little bit messed up and sometimes they run into each other just a bit. I also would like to talk about how over the top it was for me to buy a 48 pan or half pan set to begin with as my first professional artist watercolor set. I mean, it was clearly unnecessary, but I just couldn't say no to all of these beautiful, beautiful colors. And so I think I noticed that having so many colors left me feeling a little bit overwhelmed, especially as I was starting out more at the beginning, but now I am used to them, and I'm actually glad I got this big set because it's really the only watercolor set that I use primarily. Down there you see that we've gotten to the end of the column, and that was ivory black. And next we're going to do our second column, which are some blues and greens. And starting out with that ultramarine at the top, which is a really beautiful color. Then we have that phthalo, actually I think it's called phthalocyanine, but it's even hard for me to read my own writing sometimes. Some of those blues are a little bit tricky when you're painting and when you're mixing with other colors, I've noticed. But they're all really gorgeous anyways, and I think that my blues in my watercolor set do get used more frequently than my blues in my pencil sets, because with watercolor I'm more likely to be painting in backgrounds that might include skies or maybe water, and that's not something I would really do as much with something like colored pencil. Another one of my favorites is that forest green. That's the one next to Payne's Gray. It's just a gorgeous green, and I actually wish that there were a couple more greens similar to that in this set, because I find all these other greens to be quite similar. I mean, you get a phthalo green in this set, and then Viridian and Emerald and Sennelier green as well, and I just don't see too much of a difference between some of them to the point where they all become useful to me, because I just don't use those shades of green very often. But there's Hooker's green, and that one is the third one down, and that one is just really useful and gorgeous for me. I find myself liking that one a lot. How do you guys feel about that brown pink? I think it's a nice color. I just think the name is a little bit odd. Maybe it has to do with the pigments. I don't know. Venetian red is another one of my top colors, one of my favorites, even though I'm not sure how much I actually use it. I just think it's a really beautiful color, as well as that crimson underneath it. As we move down towards some of our more pink colors, obviously we're going to go into less light fast territory. Now, I'm not holding the chart with me now, so I couldn't tell you the exact light fastness of these colors, but I know that it's not very good. However, I still like using them sometimes because I just think they're so gorgeous. You can't really read it, but it says Opera Rose and Cobalt Violet Light Hue, those two very similar colors. And then we have Permanent Magenta and Dioxazine Purple. Those are also two of my favorites, I would say. Indigo is a pretty used color for me in my palette, another one that I just could not do without. And I love that blue indanthrone as well. I don't find myself using blues too much in general, but as I said, with watercolor, it has come up more frequently as I've needed to do backgrounds and things like that. And we've made it to our last column. Now, I did not actually block in a black line to test the opaqueness of the titanium white, so I'm just going to have to go back and do that later, but that's all right. And now we just have a multitude of yellows, which in my opinion is not always useful for a set because it's hard to even tell the difference with some of them. To me, some of the standouts here are that yellow lake. That's one that I use pretty often. I also kind of like that yellow Sophie, the one I just swatched right there. It's really nice and bright. That Sennelier Yellow Deep is really nice as well. Really nice and warm, getting into our oranges. And then we have Red Orange, Sennelier Orange, French Vermilion, and Bright Red at the very bottom. So my personal taste, I would have wished for a couple less yellows and maybe a couple more of the oranges and reds instead, in replacement of that huge column of yellows. Maybe other people use yellows more. I just don't find them as useful. You guys will have to let me know what you think. So now that we've done the swatch chart, I thought it would be fun to just take a little look at how the palette looks now. I've cleaned it as well for the sake of the aesthetics of this video. And you could see that it just fits perfectly inside now. I mean, if it was any bigger, it wouldn't. Here's how all the colors look dried. A couple of them turned out a bit cauliflowery, so I might go over those again, but the rest of them actually turned out pretty nicely. But I'm very glad that I remade this swatch chart because I think it's much easier to just have it in the palette, in the tin. And I'm going to close that back up now. It's still not really like a travel size palette or anything like that. It's quite large, but it's still nice to have that there for convenience. Isn't it such a gorgeous tin, you guys? I think it is beautiful. Now that we've finished our swatch chart, why not create some actual artwork with the paints, because that might be the best way for me to showcase the color palette to you guys. Obviously, we're going to be using Arches cold pressed watercolor paper for this, and I'm going to be making two artworks for you guys. They're both going to be birds, because for some reason I love birds as a subject matter for my artwork, as some of you guys might already know. The first bird we're going to be painting is a peregrine falcon, and I really exaggerated the cool tones and the blues in this, and actually there's just a lot of different colors that I ended up using in this, not just cool tones. And I think I told you guys this at the beginning of the video, but I've been working on this for a couple of weeks now, maybe even longer than that, and so I don't remember all of the details when I started this artwork, because it was back in April sometime when I started it actually. I just figured, since everything is a little hectic right now in my life, and I wanted to put out a video for you guys, but I didn't want to have to rush it in order to get more videos out when I just don't have the time right now, unfortunately. So I decided I would have to be okay with just taking my time and then at least putting out a video that has some artwork in it, rather than something that's too rushed. And this is very, very, very late, obviously. But as you guys can see, there's a lot of feather detail in this, so it did take me quite a while painting this. You guys might be seeing more paintings from me in upcoming months, just because painting is not as time consuming as pencil art, for instance, and it would be way easier for me to keep up with videos and artwork if I'm doing more paintings and working in other media that are quicker. Right now, that's just how my life is looking. You guys can probably tell how many different colors I used in this as well, but I do want to say that I exaggerated a lot of it, of course, for the sake of the artwork, and for the sake of using a lot of my colors too. And I just wanted to take my time on all the details of the feathers. I think it paid off in the end. Although one issue I tend to have with watercolor, and I've gotten a little bit better recently, but I've always had this issue, is overworking. Sometimes I just never know when to stop, and with watercolor, the paint layers on top of each other and you can see the different layers, so if you don't stop, it just ends up looking like a mess. And I got pretty close to overworking some areas in this painting, and in the next one that you're going to see me do after this painting. I kind of have to stop myself from doing that. But I just like to go into all those little details and darken up areas and get that contrast. You guys will have to let me know what you think of this painting, and if you'd like me to do more birds, I will take bird requests down below, as funny as that sounds. We're also rapidly approaching 10,000 subscribers on this channel. Now, of course, recently the growth has slowed down quite a bit because of my lack of posting. But I'm still very excited to be reaching that milestone here on this channel and with this community. And as promised, I'm going to have to make a milestone video that somehow includes penguins, because penguins are my favorite animal. And every milestone video I've done so far includes an artwork of penguins. I'm just going to have to think of another creative way to include them in possibly my next video. In fact, I might reach the milestone by the time this one even gets posted, so this one's a little late for that. But just in case that happens, I just want to thank you guys as always, and I know I haven't always been the most consistent on here, but I love creating videos for this channel, so I don't see myself stopping even if life gets in the way and I have to slow down a little bit. So anyways, I'm getting to the end of this painting here. And I had a bit of trouble distinguishing the bird from the rock that it was sitting on, or the branch ledge situation. It ended up just looking kind of like a pile of stones. And I just wanted to distinguish it from the bird itself, because there are a lot of similar colors going on there. After I finished doing that, I brightened up some areas around the face because I felt like maybe the rocks were standing out too much, and I didn't know if I really liked that. So now I'm going to do the background. I felt like it was just missing something and it needed a background. I'm going to use the wet on wet technique for this. And I just went with greens. I think that's what the reference photo actually had, was greens. And here's how this painting turned out. So in the end, I think I liked it better with the background, and I'm glad that I added the background. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments down below. Sticking with the birds theme, I next decided to draw a barn owl. Now, I've done an artwork of an owl before, but it had to have been a couple of years ago and in colored pencil, so I don't think I've ever done an owl painting in watercolor before. So I thought, it's been long enough, let's do this subject matter. And I also chose this because it had different colors than the peregrine falcon, and I wanted to showcase some more colors of the palette as well. This artwork was also a bit faster for me than the peregrine falcon. I think it's because there were feather details in this one, but in the other one, there was actually a lot more feather details, and that one just took me a while because also his wings were kind of spread out too. But in this one, I liked to add some of those brown details and spots, so I had a lot of fun creating this one as well. For whatever reason, I decided to leave the face blank for the longest time. And yes, I did the eyes and the beak, but I left the rest of the face blank, and it just doesn't look right. It's flat and off-putting. I don't know why I chose to do that part last, but for some reason I just wanted to get straight to the feathers, and so that's why the owl looks so awkward at this stage. But I had so much fun doing these feather details here. With things like this, I find it hard to figure out when I need to stop and when I'm overdoing it, because I can always go back and add more, but with watercolor it's not something you want to do too much compared to something like colored pencil. If you were a pencil artist before you played around with watercolor, do you have the same issue of overworking or not knowing when to stop? Because watercolor is a relatively fast medium in comparison. So I'd really like to know if some of you guys are Harry Potter fans. I've been meaning to rewatch them for a long time now because it's been like 6 years since I watched the entire series, and obviously this owl kind of reminded me of that. I've also been to Universal Studios a couple of times, and they have the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and it's so much fun that it always makes me want to rewatch the movies when I go. But I haven't really gotten around to it. And my watch list for this summer is piling up since I'm not going to have any classes and I'll have a lot of free time to watch movies, hopefully. It sounds like a lot of free time now, but when we get to it, it might not actually be that much. So let me know if you guys are Harry Potter fans in the comments down below, or if you enjoy those movies. I haven't done any fan art in a really long time, and I've been thinking about if I should do some, if that fits kind of like the nature of my channel these days or not. I don't know. I did so much fan art as a teenager and in my very early 20s that I don't know if I want to go back and do fan art again, but maybe it would be fun to have some of it sprinkled in here and there. Back to my painting here, I suppose. I had a hard time again with the talons and the feet. It was just a little bit hard for me to get that part right with both of the birds. And then I went back and finally decided, after doing all of these details, that maybe I should do the face. Another thing I'm realizing is that I meant to go back with white gouache and add in all of the white details, and I never actually did that. So I guess the artwork is unfinished by the end of this video, unfortunately. Another question I'd like to ask you guys is if I should do a background for this owl, because as of now I have not. And let me know if you liked this artwork and which one you liked better. I'm going to show both of them here in a second at the end together. And now let's take a look at my final artworks here. I don't know, you guys, if I want to do a background. Maybe the cat says yes for this owl. And if I do, what type of color should I do for the background? Let me know what you guys think. I wasn't really feeling a background when I painted this, but now looking at it, maybe I could use a little extra something. Not an entire full background, but kind of just like a faded out one, sort of how I have the branch here at the bottom. So if you guys think of something, let me know if I should do that, or do you guys think it just looks better against the white like this? This one I'm really happy that I did the background for it. I think it looks really nice. I would do something similar, like a very simple, light, wet on wet background for this one as well. Nothing crazy or fancy. So before I go, for those of you that don't mind the extra chatting in the video, because all the artwork has been finished now, but I am probably going to get maybe one more video out before June, and in June I'm going to be going on a trip to Hawaii. I'm very, very excited about that. It's going to be an 8-day trip. Now while I'm there, I'm going to try and get some pictures and maybe some pictures that I could paint when I get home. I'm still debating whether or not I should take a little travel art set over there because it seems like it's going to be a very busy trip. I'm going with my aunt and cousin and uncle, and they really like to do adventurous stuff, so we're going to be doing a whole kayaking tour, a snorkeling tour, and probably a couple more things as well while we're there. In other related news to update you guys, I'm finishing up my last week at the school I work at next week. And I already said goodbye to one of my classes, which was a little bit bittersweet actually. This upcoming week I'm also finishing up some of the classes that I'm taking myself for the semester, and then I likely won't have any classes again till September, which is good news for the channel at least, because I'll have this to do in my spare time instead of having to do so much schoolwork and stuff like that, which is why my video posting schedule has gone awry a bit. I won't be back from Hawaii until mid-June, so there might be a lag in videos for the month of June as well. But when I get back, maybe I'll have some nice photos to create some artworks off of, and maybe I'll have some inspiration in that front as well. Let me know what you guys think. Also, since we are so very close to 10,000 subscribers and might very well almost be there or already have surpassed that by the time this video gets posted, I just wanted to thank you guys again for following me along on this channel and my artistic journey, I guess you could say. Regardless, I think my next video is going to be something for 10,000 subscribers, since I always like to do some type of fun milestone video. That'll probably be the last one that you guys see until later in June, and hopefully I'll be able to put something together later in June that includes aspects of my trip and related artwork. We'll see. I think that would be something fun and different, and I don't travel very often. In fact, the last time I went on a plane was over a decade ago, so when I was a teenager, and I guess I'm a bit nervous for that too because I have just not flown. Another thing I forgot to mention earlier as well, I think that I am going to be trying to maybe make longer videos with more stuff happening in the video rather than shorter ones, just because it takes me a while to put one out anyway, so I might as well kind of add a lot into that one video, and let me know if you guys are okay with that type of style for now. So I think it's a better posting schedule for when I don't have a whole lot of time. And yes, if you guys have any suggestions, I'll see you in the comments below, but I'm excited to just see you in the comments below in general because I haven't talked to you in so long. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Let me know if you have the same Sennelier palette as I do, or if you at least have some palette by them, because I really like this brand. And I will see you in the next video. Hopefully that will be sometime in the next 2 weeks before my trip. Thanks for watching, you guys. Bye!